All right, everybody, you have just tuned in to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And boy, is there a lot of stuff to get to tonight. Steelers, of course, are now fully invested in training camp. They've practiced with pads on. They've practiced without pads on. They've done a little bit of everything, and we'll try to get you up to date with as much of the goings on as possible. Plus, apparently Le'Veon Bell has tweeted tonight that he's apologizing to all the fantasy owners from last year. You know, hey, Le'Veon, how about apologizing to the millions of Steelers fans who invested money in your jerseys and stuff, jerk. But I digress. Joining me on the show are our usual suspects, Chris and Ben. And I had to just get that out of the way in case I didn't have time for a rant tonight, fellas. You guys excited for football, Chris?
I am. I'm ready for preseason to come around. That's sad to say, but I need to watch some football.
Oh no, I'm with you. I've got a baseball game on mute right now, and I'm falling asleep watching the darn thing. I'm definitely ready for preseason. Ben, how about out there? You ready for some actual football?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I want the fall to get here. It's one of my favorite seasons for a number of reasons, but you know, I'm really enjoying the summer. The summer's been pretty damn nice. So
it is a tough. Yeah,
I'm gonna enjoy it while it's around.
Yeah, I love summer. I like you, I love fall for numerous reasons. But you don't want summer to go quite so fast. But at the other hand, you also want the Steelers to get here, and in a sense, they are here. But so let's get to the latest stuff here, and we'll start with some injury stuff. None of which, for the listening audience, is horrible. There's no season-ending injuries, knock on wood, and all that stuff. T.J. Watt, of course, was the big news from the very first day of the conditioning test, a hamstring strain. Ben, you've had hamstring issues, I think you said in the past. I had a complete tear once in my early 20s. These are very not sure the right word here, but they're different for everybody, aren't they?
Yeah, no, I've never really had major hamstring issues.
No.
I was rooming with a college hurdler when I went to the University of Arizona, and when he had them, he really was cautious with them because they can. When you pull a hamstring, just pulling it, you get a little tear and you create scar tissue. And as that scar tissue builds up, you're more likely to get pulls and strains over and over and over again. So you have to really kind of just be careful, constantly get treatment, work at it, but you got to be careful in how fast you bring it back. And they're just being cautious with Watt. I'm not super concerned about it myself.
No.
It's just, basically they put him on PUP so that they can use the extra roster spot while he's not practicing, which makes sense. And in the event that he doesn't come back quickly, they've got that available for, a good period of time. But I'm not super concerned. Again, it's a little bit, he felt hamstring tightness after the conditioning test. I think he just didn't warm up thoroughly enough and decided to go run, and that happens.
It does, and I'm with you. This is not a massive thing to get worried about. If we're still talking about this in the middle of preseason when we've already had a few games and he's still on PUP, then I think we start discussing it. But as for right now, not totally concerned. Chris, the other I guess significant minor injury was Shawn Davis yesterday. Dislocated finger. To be real honest with most of the listening audience, if you've played a ball sport in your lifetime, you've either had a dislocated finger or seen one, and
or both.
Or both. Yeah. But believe me, I'm looking at my index finger in my right hand right now. It's probably by the time I'm 60, it's going to be completely upside down. But it's just one of those things. But when you're a safety. Chris, have you ever dealt with one of these before?
No. My injuries have been knee, ribs, That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Shoulder.
Okay, so a little bit of everywhere, but the bottom line with this is you don't think Shawn Davis's injury is something we should be overly concerned with, right?
No, but I think it opens opportunities for other guys like for Cameron Kelly, and same with Watt's injury with Ola Adeniyi. So that's what camp's about, is opportunities and seeing what other guys can get with those upper echelon first team guys.
Well, and let's just segue right to that, because we've talked about this on previous shows throughout the offseason when it came to the issue of free safety. All of us are holding our breath for Shawn Davis. He's been pretty durable during his 3-year career so far. But if he does go down for an extended period of time, Chris, what do they have behind him right now?
You really have Cameron Kelly, and that might be it. There's no one else on this roster who can play that position besides maybe Terrell Edmonds in a pinch. So getting Cameron Kelly these reps right now is pretty valuable for him and for the team to see where he's at and how worried they should actually be.
He seems to be a guy that, and we'll answer this question later, but he's been a kind of a camp phenom in the sense that people are definitely noticing him. And that's how you make rosters, is when everybody starts paying a little bit more attention to you. He played in the now defunct AAF. He was a member of the San Diego franchise, and he's from San Diego State. Had a brief stint with the Cowboys, cut before the preseason, last year. So, he's got some decent size, got some abilities, but we're not talking about a guy that we think is just going to walk in here and claim a roster spot. But that said, I mean, Ben, has the Trey Boston ship sailed for you now? No.
As long as he remains a free agent, the further you get into camp, the less you're going to sign for. I predict that Boston's going to sign for the vet minimum again and play somewhere and probably play very, very well. The one thing that Boston has going for him, though, is he can be choosy. I mean, a lot of teams would like to have him if he's going to play for the minimum, and he can start. So, if you're not going to be a starter, why go to that team? You know what I mean?
Right.
So he's going to wait and see till somebody, needs a free safety to be the starter and go sign a 1-year deal and try and cash in again. And, it's like Chris speculated about last week. We don't know what the hell the deal is, but for whatever reason, he can't stick any place and he can't get paid. But when he gets out on the field, he plays well. So is it a locker room issue? Is it he doesn't get along well with coaches? What is it? I could not begin to tell you, but the guy does perform at a high level.
It is funny that 32 different NFL teams now are just kind of letting him sit there twisting the wind. And as you mentioned, a lot of that has to do with money, but is there that other part, as you also mentioned, about, the ability to get along with coaches, players, whatever. But I don't know. He's still there, and that's the business of the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. It is a ruthless business, because what he is essentially doing is he is sitting at home, working out, waiting for a guy to get seriously hurt so that he can take his place. That's the NFL, and sadly always has been in that sense. Chris, you mentioned Ola Adeniyi. He is a guy having a really nice camp so far. Especially with TJ Watt not participating so far. I know for you, the dream is to see him starting at some point this year. But I'll only play devil's advocate. Everything I've heard good about him this week has been pass rushing. I haven't heard or seen anything about his ability to drop into coverage. Is that a point of concern for you?
Yeah, that and him against the run, we have to see him step up in that aspect as well. But dropping coverage, sure, because he didn't do that in Toledo, and didn't have much experience last year as well. So we'd like to see him improve in that area, take a step forward. But at the same time, the past couple of years, excuse me, we haven't had a linebacker who can really excel in that area, and now we have one in Devin Bush, and we might have two in Mark Barron. So will he need to drop as much? I don't know, but moving forward, we know he could rush the passer, so that's a really big. It's a valuable asset, especially on third down, third and long, and you have TJ on one side, you have Cam, and Ola can rush the passer, so it'll be tough for offenses.
Yeah, and one of the guys he's trying to take a spot from is your favorite outside rusher, Bud Dupree, who apparently said today or last night, he said he has no interest in signing a long-term deal with the Steelers, regardless of how the season goes. And I think for a lot of fans, the feeling's probably mutual. But Ben, it's too early to tell on something like that, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of season to go. Maybe he just feels that, it's just not a good fit for him from a schematic standpoint. They're not asking him to do what he excels at. I would agree. I don't know. I would agree.
Into coverage, right?
I mean, I have said for a little while that, he would be better served playing in a different scheme. That's all. And maybe he feels the same way. I think we'd all agree that he doesn't do what he should do well enough in that scheme. Yes?
No argument for me. Yeah. I mean, we joked many, many times about his wide arcs to the quarterback. And then, of course, he put out that video of himself training and basically doing the exact same thing during the offseason. And I think most of us just kind of smacked the palm of our hand against our forehead. But Adeniyi is an interesting guy. He kind of reminds you a little bit of James Harrison. And no, I am not comparing them. Just simply saying he reminds you of that in stature a little bit. But he would be a fascinating guy if the time and the need comes in there for him to play, see some more snaps. So something to keep an eye on there with him. Chris, I'm going to change gears here for a second, and one guy that has had a terrific camp so far is JuJu Smith-Schuster. Probably not a surprise that he has, but I'm just going to throw out this to you, and you can answer it any way you want to. Do you think that JuJu has some motivation because he saw how ugly the fans got towards Antonio Brown once Brown started doing all this and ultimately was traded? Do you think there's motivation for him for that?
I think most of his motivation comes from him now being the number one, and I know that there's been some analysts saying that he can't do it because he previously succeeded because of all the attention to Antonio Brown. So I think that's some motivation there. I honestly just think he wants to win for the team, and just do what he can for the team. That's the kind of person he is. But maybe some of his motivation comes from AB sliding him a few times and
doesn't he seem a little hacked off to you? He seems a little bit indignant to me, a little more determined than he did previous.
A little bit of an edge. Yeah.
Basically when he was describing his entry into camp and he's like, I just slid in through the side door. People, talk about whatever they want to say about it. Personally, I could care less. I'm here to work. It was like, whoa, where did that guy come from?
Well, too, Ben, it was something that the way he said that, too, really resonated with me. He almost kind of said, like, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to get talked about if I do come in the main entrance, so to speak. To me, that's a really mature attitude to have because he knows that if he just happens to walk in wearing a black and gold sweatsuit with his headphones on or something, somebody will make an issue of it. Somebody will say, oh, geez, look at JuJu. He's doing this. He's doing that. So he just kind of took the route of, I'm not even going to bother doing that. I'm just going to go walk in the side. And to me, I think that shows growth and maturity in a kid that is 21 years old.
And I think he's 22, isn't he?
20. Is he 22 now?
Yeah, he's 22 now.
And there's so many. He's so old. So many people that are like, oh, wait till his next contract comes up. He's going to be just like Brown will. He'll want all the money. He won't care. I'm telling you, this cat is different. He just, and if he's not, he certainly has convinced me otherwise. He talks about team. He talks about winning. I mean, that's what I've heard a lot from these guys, more so than maybe any other Steelers training camp, is these guys are talking about the business-like approach, the hard work, that, I don't care what I do as long as the team wins. I mean, these are all things that we weren't really used to hearing in years past. And if we did, it was just kind of lip service. I think these guys at their word, Ben.
It's really early in the game. I mean, I don't want to use that. It's so cliche, but it's been 4 days. Okay. So I don't want to read too much into this, but I've been told repeatedly by people who are there that there's a heightened sense of camaraderie on the team this year, and that guys are excited to go to work with each other and play with each other and compete, but they're excited about being there. And there's an air of enthusiasm and positivity that wasn't there, in the last few years. I'm sure that contributes to it. Getting back to what we were just talking about before, JuJu turns 23 in November.
Oh, geez. He's getting old on me.
He's a really mature kid. And
he is.
Speaking to your point about getting paid, he's going to get paid.
Yep.
Anyway, I think the difference between he and Antonio Brown is he's not going to see if he can squeeze the Steelers for as much as he possibly can. Regardless, my feeling is, the rate for a number one receiver is going to be somewhere in that $16 to $20 million a year range when JuJu gets his next contract, and that's what he's going to get paid. It is what it is, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Those are the rates. You got a guy, and if he's a number one and he's proved he can perform, that's what he makes. It's just like with quarterbacks, man. $30 million now is the benchmark, which to me is ridiculous, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you can't fight it. It like you said, it is what it is. Chris, there is a potential developing situation with the two backup quarterbacks right now, because I think we've talked quite a bit that we would definitely like to see Mason Rudolph take that number 2 spot. But so far, and as Ben stated a minute ago, it is just 4 days, so we're not going to get crazy here. But both he and Josh Dobbs have been very inconsistent so far. And, I've heard Devlin Hodges has looked good, but again, good for a guy like that, versus being ready to be a pro quarterback, two different things. Where are you, Chris, on your concern level for the backup quarterback situation right now?
Not overly high, just because our offensive line is so good, and I think we're going to run a little bit more this year, so he shouldn't be passing as much. So the risk of injury, or I guess not risk, but the likelihood of injury goes down a bit. But concerning the backups, it's going to be Mason Rudolph, and you're going to have to roll with him. But when Ben gets his days off, I don't think anyone should complain. I think that they're there for a reason, and Mason Rudolph has to make the best of those situations. Like we said before on this podcast, if Delvin Hodges proves that he's worthy or even better or equal to Josh Dobbs, why not see what you can get for Dobbs in the open market, or see if we'll give you a conditional 7, 6, something for him.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I think you just got to be patient. Let the the rust shake off. Granted, these guys train all year round, but you still have a sense of full speed. Everything else is happening now at training camp, so you want to get yourself ready, get in there and go. And so I'm not going to get overly concerned about it just yet, but it's certainly something that bears watching. Ben, do you have any concerns at this point, or is your alarm button does that kind of go off later in the preseason?
I don't know. I guess I'm a little more, I hate to keep reusing this word over and over again, but pragmatic about it. we are where we are now. I think we had too many quarterbacks last year, and that maybe we kept the wrong ones. Sorry, that's the way I really feel. Not that Landry was anything to write home about, but he was a competent backup quarterback. And it's early. I'm really hopeful that Rudolph will take the mantle and become the backup that we think he can be this year. But it doesn't look great right now, as I understand it. And it's 4 days of
4
camp
days
so far,
Yep.
so it's not really anything to panic about. No, I'm not panicked about it. I'm just not pleased.
Yeah, no, that I think that's a very a good way to put that right there. I think that's where a lot of people are, like to see it improve, and I think that it will. And I do want to remind everybody that you're listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh, where you still have plenty of time to get the Devin Bush themed Bush t-shirt based on the Bush beer slogan, logo, if you will. And it's really cool. Dell designed it, and it just takes some of the little things from the Bush logo, and he puts in some Pittsburghese, if you will, on those, and it's really, really cool. And as I've stated over and over again, they have some of the most comfortable T-shirts I've ever known. And so get one, do something good at the same time. $8 from every shirt goes to a very worthy Pittsburgh area cause. And while I'm at it, I might as well mention too, don't forget our online store at Design Tree. We've got, gosh, I don't know, a dozen or more different T-shirts up, some with our logo, some very original designs. We just came out with a new Troy Polamalu themed one last week, which has easily been our best seller. It's just kind of a silhouette of him and the words first ballot underneath. And of course, he'll be up for the Hall of Fame next year. So, and most of us believe he will, in fact, be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if he's not, somebody's
shocked if he wasn't.
Oh, my God. Somebody would have some serious explaining to do, to say the least. So, I believe the Steelers are off tomorrow, aren't they, guys?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think they have a day off tomorrow. And, as Coach Tomlin said, show me a player who doesn't like a day off. And, he just kind of stopped right there and started to laugh. I mean, of course, these guys enjoy a day off now and then, but it's been a good camp so far. I think Tomlin, you guys were talking about the renewed vigor in this team. He sure seems to have it too. Just listening to him at the end of practices, he's always been enthusiastic about training camp, but he seems to be even a little bit more so now. And it just all looks good. And I mean, crap, even James Ferrier tweeted today, Bell and Brown are gone, should win the Super Bowl this year or something to that extent. So,
yeah, James Ferrier's coming from a time when the team was really, really tight, and he was one of the team leaders. And so he's basically comparing what we saw the last few years to that, to his perspective when he was on the team. And I understand where he's coming from. I do.
Oh, now, definitely.
I do think they're going to miss Brown's talents. I also, and maybe I'm biased, but I happen to think that Antonio Brown is going to miss the Steelers more than the Steelers are going to miss Antonio Brown.
Ooh, boy, that is a really, really interesting point. Chris, did you agree with that statement?
Yeah, sadly, I have to. I don't want to, but yeah.
I think so too. I can already see the stares that he's going to give Derek Carr after ball goes in the dirt at his feet.
Or he misses him when he's wide open. I'll give you another example. I'll give you guys – let me give you this scenario, okay?
Yeah.
AB says something bad about Derek Carr and how he missed him or can't hit him or whatever, doesn't like his quarterback, anything negative about his quarterback. David Carr, talking head for NFL Network, is going to step up and defend his brother. that's going to bring the situation to a head very quickly. And I don't think the Raiders really thought that through when they brought this guy in, but they're about to find out.
Well, plus they got Burfict, plus they got Incognito. I mean, Hard Knocks cannot start soon enough. I may actually watch it. Sometimes I just watch a few clips here and there. I may actually tune in to watch that train wreck.
I have never watched a single episode of Hard Knocks, and I don't think I will.
Oh, you might. If this is a must-see TV, I think it's going to be. You might want to, but who knows? We're getting off topic. Speaking of our wide receivers, Deante Johnson, the rookie out of Toledo, is everything is looking good right now, Chris. Where do you see him fitting in this offense?
It's tough to tell because he could play the slot and he could play the X. I think he can play the Z as well. If they want to split JuJu out wide, then I think you put Johnson in the slot. I think that's a formation that they might want to run. And then either Washington or Moncrief at the Z or the X. It depends on where you want to put JuJu. Yeah. But I would like to see that. I'd like to see all these receivers be interchangeable just because it'd be tough to defend, tough for corners to really watch their film and really know what they're getting because they are going to be getting too many wide receivers to really understand. So for me, I think that he's competing for the X position right now behind Moncrief. And I think if Moncrief wants to beat out James Washington, if he could, then he would switch over to the Z, and wouldn't that be a blow to Kevin Colbert watching James Washington to kind of fall behind? We don't want to see that.
No, we don't. And everything I've been told of Washington so far is that he looks like a completely different player this year, as most second-year guys do after they've had a full year in the organization. But and Tomlin commented on it today that he feels like Washington's really taken a big leap. And, I'm just kind of sitting here drooling at the prospect of JuJu, Deante Johnson, Dante Moncrief, and Washington all being on the field at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of options for Ben Roethlisberger right there if all of that breaks right. Now, of course, things can happen here or there, but, Ben, have you had a chance to look at DeAndre Johnson at all, see what type of stuff he's been doing?
Yeah, I mean, all I've caught is like highlights that people aren't supposed to be posting on social media, but he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Getting off the line, the guy looks great. Now, I don't know how he's going to be in press.
Yeah.
That concerns me a little, but then you just put him in the slot and he's going to be dangerous. So, getting back to what Chris was saying before, the more versatile you can make these guys, and I think you could make Washington an X.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I know you could make Moncrief an X or a Z, no question. You probably could even put him in the slot. You've got that versatility, I believe, with Johnson, and you certainly have it with JuJu Smith-Schuster. So, the more versatility those guys have, the better. Johnson looks great. I would like to see some more of Deontay Spencer, but I'm specifically thinking about
the
way he performs as a receiver, because we know he can return. He can do returns. But if he can't perform as a receiver, he's not going to make this team.
Right. No, that's true. By all accounts, he's looked good. I mean, his speed is definitely on display, but I haven't heard or seen enough of him yet to make a definitive call as to whether or not he's doing well at receiver. But arrows up, so to speak, in that regard.
I've heard Eli Rodgers hasn't looked very good.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Chris, is Eli Rodgers in trouble right now of making this
I've
team?
been saying this since he's been re-signed. I don't understand why. I just don't. I never thought that he was anything great, just a normal guy. You can get what he offers from any UDFA. I would rather have Deante Spencer and Ryan Switzer over him. Just how I feel.
I mean, how do you know what Deante Spencer can do at this point?
I'll take his. I mean, if you wash the return ability, then you have to go as a receiver. So it's head to head, where who has the better hands, who's the better route running. The camaraderie obviously goes to Rodgers there, but depends on how their camp goes.
I hear what you're saying, but I can't project a returner into a good receiver. There are plenty of guys back going through league history. Desmond Howard's the most notable that comes to mind right away, that were excellent returners but couldn't do anything as receivers.
Yeah.
Let me pull up Deante Spencer's stats. Yeah, he had
in where, Canada?
Yeah, he still caught the football.
Okay, but it's Canada. I mean,
he still caught the football. What did Eli Rodgers do the past 2 years? Sit on his ass. He hasn't caught a football.
Well, he's caught a football. Since we're talking about guys who catch the football, I'm still terrified of what's going on at tight end, guys. By all accounts, Zach Gentry has looked as exact, and I'm sorry, I'm going to toot our own horn here. One of our big concerns with him, besides the fact that his hands were questionable, is that he's just a big, tall drink of water and he doesn't block well. And the first day of contact, and again, I preface, it's only been in 4 days, but he hasn't looked real good. Ben, are you left wondering why we drafted him? He just doesn't seem like a Steeler draft pick to me.
Am I left wondering? I've been bitching about it since they made the pick. The guy was, I'm sorry. He's an undrafted free agent quality player. And they took him with a 5th round pick. I don't get it. Now, they know more than I do. They do. And they clearly see something there that they can develop. And they felt that he would not be available the next time they chose, so they took him. I completely disagree that he was worth that pick. He can't block. He has suspect hands. He's not athletic. He's too tall to learn how to block. He doesn't do anything after the catch. When he does catch it, he catches it and falls down. I don't see the value at all. I don't understand it. So I'm not left doubting the pick. I've doubted the pick from the moment. I've been like, that's weird. And then I went back and watched more of his film again. I'm like, what the hell? Why?
Yeah. And if I remember, there were a couple of other tight ends on the board that, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there one or two other guys we liked that we thought would have been? Yeah. That's true too. I can't remember
Moreau in the 4th.
No, not really. There was Caden Smith. I'm going down.
Moreau in the 4th. Yes, I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Good blocker.
Nada from Georgia.
Yeah.
Tommy Sweeney, Boston College. Alizé Mack. I'd rather have Alizé Mack.
Okay, maybe he's the one I was thinking of then.
Okay.
But there is one thing.
What's that?
About this situation this year that gives us a little bit of hope. If the two guys in front of Gentry can stay healthy, even though I still think Gentry's not going to turn into anything.
No.
Xavier Grimble last year actually knew the offense pretty well, and he still only played 15% of the snaps.
Right.
So
Grimble is one of those guys, much in the same way that I think when I go back and I think about how we looked at Villanueva those first few weeks when he was starting, and we thought, oh God, no, it's just not going to happen. He's just not built right. He doesn't do this. And I want to be wrong about Xavier Grimble. I want nothing better than to be on this show and say, man, this guy proved me wrong. But I haven't seen anything yet for it to happen. But if it means the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers, then I desperately want it to happen. It's just a matter of not seeing it. And, knowing the offense, very important. He's made some really nice athletic catches. But just as a Well, okay, viable catches. I don't know. As a blocker, I mean, I need my number 2 guy to be a blocker. I mean, he's got to be a guy that can set an edge when he's blocking, and I don't see it with him. And Chris, I know you're not exactly on the Xavier Grimble bandwagon either, right?
No, I mean, he did improve as a blocker, but it's still not where you want it to be. He can catch the ball, and I mean, man, just a lot left to be desired, and they just keep throwing him a bone every year, it seems, and they're treating the tight end position like they have the cornerback position for a long time, and then the inside linebacker position for a long time. They're just not putting enough, just not putting enough weight on it, and I really think that they need to take it more seriously, especially with nobody really emerging for the number 3 spot. That's worrisome as well. I think they're going to have to look for cuts and look for somebody to add in August.
Tomlin was actually asked today about Trevor Wood, the tight end / long snapper, and he was funny. He was asked if he'd been doing any long snapping, and Tomlin said, "Man, we're not even on to Plan B jobs yet. We're still trying to get our feet wet with what we're supposed to be doing and not that stuff." So, it just isn't an answer that is, again, indicative of how far we are into this and how far we still have to go. Before we start wrapping things up here, Chris, do you get the feeling based on the first couple of days, offensive line wise, that they definitely are leaning towards Chooks taking that spot, or are they just trying to get him time to see what he could do?
I'm not really that sure. I think that they're trying to make it an equal battle where they're not putting one guy with the first team and then the second guy has to perform well enough with the second team to kind of move up. I think they're going to try and make it a little more equal in terms of a battle, just to see where the chemistry is, where the camaraderie is, where how each respond to not being with the first team, perhaps. There's a lot going on. I think they want Chooks to succeed, and I really like what Matt Fowler did last year, and he was rock solid for a guy coming off. No one really knew who he was. If he was walking on the street, no one would have any idea who he was, and he came in for Marcus Gilbert. And pretty much solidified that right side. I mean, he wasn't the best, but he really solidified and made it not a huge worry.
We kind of thought of him as more of a guard than anything, if I remember correctly. And played well. Ben, you've been on that bandwagon that you really think that they want Chooks to win that job.
I was told that flat out. They want him to win it because they view him as a left tackle, and they want him to get some playing time because they want to improve the competition over on that side. I personally don't think that Al was playing badly toward the end of last year. So, I mean, if you'd asked me this time last year, I'd have been like, yeah, great. They've got a left tackle in waiting. This is going to be great. He's a developmental guy, yada, yada, yada. Right. Now I'm less concerned. But having too many good tackles is never a problem.
Oh, no.
So I'm not really going to bitch about it. And I agree with what Chris said. Fowler was solid last year, especially as a run blocker. He was brutal. He was devastating. Yeah. And I think they should give him the benefit of the doubt, but also make him compete to win the job. And the thing that Fowler's got going for him is he can definitely play 3 spots. He can they taught him to snap last year to be the emergency center. I mean, that's not the guy you want to be the center, but
no. He
can snap if he needs to. So that's a 4th position. The only spot he really can't play is left tackle, and he can also come in and play that extra tackle when they were in the power sets. So, either way, both these guys have a job. We're not really going to be concerned about either one of them making the team. I think when Fowler's exclusive rights and restricted rights have been used up, he's either going to leave or the Steelers are going to pay him. Either way, he's getting paid. So, both these guys have a nice future. I hope that the Steelers just make it an honest competition and do what Chris alluded to earlier and just may the best man win.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Gerald Hawkins either. I mean, Hawkins,
yeah, that sucks, but
he's on
a lot of time.
He has. He's on his last go around, so to speak. He just has struggled way too much with injuries, and if he's ever going to do it, this is the year to do it. But he's clearly already behind both Filer and Chooks, from everything that I can tell. So, guys, we are just about done here on the show, and I wanted to give you a chance. Chris, any parting thoughts before we cut it off for this evening?
Ola Adeniyi should be the starter.
Yeah, you're all in on Ola.
By week 4. I don't know how we're going to use Mark Barron. I don't know who the linebackers are going to be. Go Cam Kelly. Cam Sutton's having a good camp. I don't really know where you put him.
Cam Sutton's having a good camp in coverage, but
that's what we're hearing.
He can't tackle. How can he play dimebacker if he's not a good tackler? I'm not saying he can't tackle, but he's not good at it. It's not his strength.
That's why I've been saying he shouldn't be a free safety either.
No, we didn't like that aspect of him coming out of Tennessee. He did not tackle well.
No.
So
I don't know what to do with him. I have no idea what's going on with Barron either. Bush seems to be the guy they absolutely want to win that max spot, which makes sense. Bush did not perform well by all accounts in backs on backers, which is a bit of a surprise to me. But I don't think that he's had to take on blockers in his career. I think he's just been a guy who runs to the ball. He's been covered up, so it's something he's going to have to learn to do, on the Steelers defense. Ola, conversely, has been a monster. He's like undefeated in backs on backers. So, hey, that's great. That's fantastic. Now let's hope that he can set an edge and cover. If he can do those two things, we already know he can pursue and he can rush the passer. If he can do all 4 of those things, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that undeniable strength that James Harrison has, but he does a lot of the things like cutting that arc short like Harrison used to do that remind you of Harrison, getting underneath tackles and running around them. And, I'm looking forward to this kid developing and maturing, and we'll see what the future brings, but I'm enthusiastic.
Yeah, I am too. And I arrow up on him and several other guys as well. And, I had something in mind there that I was going to point out right at the end, and I've totally forgotten it. But
Kevin Colbert?
Well, I think we'll get into that on the next show for sure. Kevin Colbert, asking the Steelers not to extend, and a lot of speculation that this maybe could be his last year. So we will definitely get into that. And I do want to mention that Rick Holman, friend of the show, he was the guy that joined us last year and was visited by one Terry Bradshaw at his home when he was nominated to be the greatest Steeler fan ever. And he's actually going into the Hall of Fame this week, and we're going to hear from him coming up real soon. But I'm running short of time. So for Ben and for Chris, this is Steel Dad signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.